no citizens of the world. We are anonymous.
The anti-counterfeiting trade agreement was overwhelmingly rejected within the parliament, and I think most people thought that that's the end of the story.
Quite a few people, though, who wanted tougher restrictions and harsher penalties on those who break certain internet rules were upset by this, and they are not giving up. They're using a tactic, frankly, we're seeing used here in the U.S. as well. They're trying to get other, more willing countries to pass very similar provisions and then get their own country to then adopt those provisions under the guise of harmonizing and getting everyone on the same team. Now, we all remember a few months ago when some members of Congress tried to pass the Stop Online Piracy Act and the Protect IP Act, SOPA and PIPA, we call them. Websites like Wikipedia and thousands of others staged protests and blackouts, and soon enough people were paying so much attention that those two pieces of legislation were actually voted down.
So this is SOPA. This is that piece of crap that he tried to give us earlier this year.
Well, it turns out SOPA's evil twin brother is back. And his name is the Intellectual Property Attache Act. Now this bill, thanks to Texas Republican Congressman Lamar Smith, is simply SOPA 2.0.
Then Lamar Smith is being shady, trying to cram SOPA-like provisions down everyone's throat. Lamar Smith, we hate him. What is he doing now?
Well, that's what's so interesting about this particular bill is that after they learned the mistakes from SOPA, they said, look, we're not going to try and sneak anything through again. We'll have it all be part of a debate, part of a larger discussion. Don't worry, everybody relax. We learned our lesson. And so what does Lamar Smith do? He waits a reasonable period, waits till everybody calms down, till people are less afraid of SOPA. And then, does he hold the discussion? Does he bring people together? Does he even release the bill? No, he hasn't even put the bill online yet for people to read. He announces there's going to be a vote scheduled on it before anyone has even gotten a chance to read the bill. There's not even going to be a hearing about whether it's a good idea or not. They're going straight to the vote the same day that he's going to release the text of the bill. And they think, well, if we change the name, if we, rush it faster this time, if we just, try a little bit harder, maybe we can sneak it through. And it's up to us to make sure they can.
Pretty much, he took one of the crappy parts about SOPA. He took the part that says that the U.S. should be able to send people into other countries to enforce and keep an eye on intellectual property laws. That was in SOPA. It was the last page. It was section 250 of SOPA. SOPA's dead, so he took that literally the last page of SOPA, put a new name on it.
I want you to take a look at, this is wording from the two bills. Can you tell which is which? It's really hard because both talk about advancing intellectual property rights and preventing infringement.
It's literally the last part of SOPA resubmitted under a new name.
Sneaky
so
one.
If it gets through, all it just means is that the U.S. is going to be able to send people into other countries and police their IP laws, which shouldn't come as a surprise because that's a whole other thing.
That's what we do, right?
Yeah.
So,
But the new one calls for the creation of a class of political officers who will see to it that all U.S. trade negotiations and discussions advance SOPA-like provisions abroad. That will make it easier at a later date to simply get the U.S. to comply.
Well, they use all the pressure that the United States has to force these other countries to adopt policies that their own citizens don't want.
We saw just last week the European Parliament vote to reject ACTA, and they seem to be sort of trying this backdoor approach as well. The European Union plans to use the Canada-EU trade agreement to implement these ACTA provisions.
So if there's something that gets rejected by the Congress in the United States, what they'll often try and do is sneak it into a treaty with another country and say, well, we're not voting on it anymore. It was just part of a treaty, and now we have to abide by it. And so we're seeing the EUs do the same thing where ACTA, a clear vote on this question, was voted down enormously, no chance of coming back. But now they're going to try and sneak it into a much larger trade agreement and say, look, to keep trading with these other countries, we need to sign on to exactly the same provisions.
So they've got, it seems like, a number of strategies in an effort to try to revive them. Well, certainly it does seem to be straight out of the playbook when it comes to some of these intellectual property issues. We see it in the Trans-Pacific Partnership as well, where some of the kinds of provisions that the United States was pushing for within ACTA and was unsuccessful in convincing other countries to include, they're now going back and trying to get those same kinds of provisions inserted into the TPP. So you're right, we do see multiple attempts to try to bring these laws into effect. In fact,
What do they have to gain? I mean, why are they doing this?
Well, the fact is, if you look at someone like Lamar Smith, Hollywood provides an enormous amount of their funding. It's pretty clear what the internet does is it disintermediates, right? It takes these things that used to cost money, like printing books or making copies of DVDs, and makes them essentially free. It's just as easy to download a book as it is to share any other kind of file. There's no reason for a separate publishing company to be there to print copies of books. And the same is true of the Hollywood studios. You can put a movie up on YouTube now. There's no reason to go through a studio and have this intermediary between you, the creator of the movie, and the people watching it. And so that puts Hollywood in incredible danger from the internet. Not because authors won't be able to make movies anymore, but because these middlemen won't be able to take a cut. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to find a way to crack down on the internet, to control it, to get rid of these free-flowing sites where anyone can post videos and make it more of a thing where you have to get approved, where you have to give them their cut, where they can continue to put themselves between the creators and the people watching the movie so that they can continue making the profits that they've made.
It really does feel a bit like almost a traditional whack-a-mole game, where every time you manage to target a particular issue and clear popular uprising and concern around some of these issues, those that are looking for this kind of legislative change look for other avenues and methods, sometimes very secret ones, in order to achieve their goals.
And they come and they come and they come and they come in tidal waves until you fix the problem of the politicians being bought in the first place. You're never going to fix any of these problems, okay?